Alright, let's just check. We're checking the stream, making sure it's all working. Alright, everything looks like it's projecting pretty solid. And we have the recording on. We'll close that a little bit. Let me check in. How's it going? Let's see how we're doing online. We're on day 6 of the 12 Days of Realism. And we're going to talk about triage today. Let me find the app. Whoa. How can we have this many apps and not be able to find anything? Okay, and let me know if you guys can see okay. Everything's okay. We rearranged the studio, rearranged the lights a little bit. There we go. We're live. All right. Let me make sure I'm not doing audio through there. How are you, Pendiaran? Excuse me if I murdered that name. And let's go through to YouTube. We're just going to make sure we are live at YouTube and everything is good. It's almost midnight. I'm by myself. Very much by myself. Every time I go into YouTube, I get these lion attacks baby elephant, surprise elephant mother discovered, and the results could not be better. Okay. And we'll go here. We're going to talk today about what I like to call the triage, which is really this moment. There we go. Live. Make sure the audio is off. This moment where we are really going in, and I think I would have liked to seen that in that. And we're doing stuff that's too complicated, too fast for us to just sit down and say, "Hey, this is a process," and it's linear. And no, this is when we get much more dynamic, much more, right? And one of the things that makes you better at triage is triage. Mileage, right? This is where the rubber hits the road, is in the phase that we're going to talk about today. So in day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I had nice systems, structures, right? The simplest thing I can say for you right now is you got to get in and you got to work. Just work it. It's the grind. That's what it is. So we're gonna grind on this real quick. I was kind of hoping I'd be able to see comments, but it's not letting me see comments here. So if you you need to reach or say something to me, head over to Facebook, because I can actually I can see them there. Yes. Come on. There we go. Let's get to it. This is the screen. This is what we're going to be dealing with today. And what we have in front of us, what we have here, let's turn this a little bit, is the results of day 5. All right. This was day 4. This is day 5. Day 5, we talked about volume, life, right? Bringing life to what you're making. But the dilemma that we have when we bring life to something is that we start to simplify things. And as we simplify things, we also take some of the life out. This is why one of my teachers, Anthony Visco used to, he hated the rake brush. He thought the rake brush was an abomination. And from his mind, from the most important thing that you had to understand about sculpture and creating life is that life was convexity. Like to the point where it was almost religious. It was convexity. It's pushing out, form that's moving out. There is no concavities, he would say, right? There's no form that caves in. And Anthony Visco, I think he's got some stuff out there. Let's take a quick look. Tony Visco, sculptor. Probably goes by Anthony. It's probably a little bit more friendly. There's Anthony. Okay. Take a look at some images. The dude can sculpt, right? And he taught me bas relief. I remember that class to this day. And he's very accomplished. You know, it's an old art form. It's a lost. We lost a lot in losing that art form, basically. But he's also a draftsman. He's an incredible drawer. He's a painter. He's an old school kind of guy, right? But the basic thing that he was telling me is that whenever you are looking at something, there is no form that caves in, right? Like, so you say, for example, when we sculpted this this form in here, I used Alt and I pressed the form in. Anthony would freak out. Mr. Visco, let's not call him by Anthony, it's a little too informal. Mr. Visco would have a coronary event, and he had no problems telling you when you were screwing up and being an idiot, right? He's an old school teacher. So from his perspective, this form here, if we were to kind of pull this up over here, in simple diagrammatic sense, this concavity where the form is pushing in, that concavity is actually the result of meeting convexities. In fact, I'll do those in another color. So that's the result of two forms, two convexities meeting. This is the key to life. The key to creating life is understanding that convexities equal death. When something is hollowed out, they're starving. They're missing that supple vitalness that makes them, you know, this alive being, right? Like you think of children, just fat bursting out of their skin, basically. You know, they're just all these round little things, as opposed to an older man like Al Pacino, where you can see death in his cheeks. It's just all hollowed out. Life is convexity. So when you have form moving in, you have to have two convexities meeting. The problem that we get into is when it's too simple. Like, say, for example, in this lower eyelid, in day 5, we talked about how you got to break up the parts and all of that stuff, but I ended up still at the end of the day creating essentially this purse hanging down from the eye. And that is what we got to deal with today. And this is part of the triage. This is why I just call it the triage, is because, yesterday I was interested in going from one stage to another stage. Now what I'm interested in doing is surviving. That's my goal. And by surviving, I mean, my ultimate, I need this to look good. Okay. So let me just make sure I have pressure sensitivity, because yesterday, yeah, right? Right when I do this. Thank you, ZBrush. I have lost my pressure sensitivity. This is very lovely. I appreciate that. Well, in the meantime, shall we? Or let's look at this is our webcam, our cam from the back. I gotta be careful. You're not seeing the top of my head. Not a young man anymore. All right, let's let ZBrush get started. How are ya? No convexities in organic sculpture. MD, how you doing? All right. Let's get in and about the business. I'm making something happen in day 6 of the 12 Days of Realism. You want to know more about this while this program's loading? Head over to Game Art Institute. You go to the blog. Let's make sure you're looking at my screen. And you can get all the podcast episodes, which I think are pretty cool. This one I was really happy with Bob. I want Bob to teach a class because this is pretty awesome. Anyways, 12 Days of Realism is here. Day 5, day 4, day 3. Day 3 is where you get the files if you want to follow along. So if you want to follow along and you want to get that file with the UVs, right? I mean, it's a pretty sweet deal. And the pure ref files, you get them right down here in the corner. All right. Now, something else, just in case you guys are wondering, we've changed the site around a little bit. If you're looking to get into any of the courses, you just go over to the courses page. It takes you to this page. Something I just literally sent an email out is I've got a 4-week mentorship thing happening. Crazy excited about that. And just mentoring digital sculpting. Okay. So why does this look like this? Because I got the wrong one. This is the one I want. There we go. Day 5, version 2. Is it Jamie or Jaime? I am up late. Yes. No oh yeah, I got you. On said I meant concavities. Yeah, no, I figured it out. And I'm as dyslexic as I am, I'm always like this when I drive. It's always like my wife says turn left, and I'm like, which left? Which one do I write with? Because I know the one I write with is my right. All right, I write with this, so that's my left. so it goes. Convexity, concavity. All right, let's get ourselves to business. I've said that twice. And we're going to get rid of that. And I got to close this because I need to be able to see my stuff. I recently started watching some Twitches. Monster Caesar, I love his Twitch. I'm probably actually streaming on Twitch right now. And it's just Ryan Kingsline. But I love that because you can listen to other people while you do your business. And it's just so enlightening. All right. So again, today what we're doing is the triage, and it's a couple of simple tools. All right. And I like to call it triage because that implies the simplicity, the urgency, and the let's not complicate this shit approach to it. Because I need to have a couple of tools, 2 or 3. I need to be able to cut in, pull crap out, close things back up, move on. So I will use my brushes, the RK Ball Stylus. I'll use my RK Rake. Now, I had the good fortune of putting the rake brush inside of ZBrush, one of the things I'm quite proud of. Back when I worked at Pixelogic and was doing all this kind of business, the brushes were one of the things that was my responsibility. And like the clay tubes brush I put in, although Ofer is the one who explained to me. I think he had been testing on that himself before. The rake brush, chisel, not the one that's in there now, but the old chisel, on from there. But they're old school. So if you want the latest and you want to follow along with mine, you just head over to ZBrush Workshops. And the brushes are right there. Download my brushes right at the top. Cool. All right, enough of all of that prep work. I'm going to be going back and forth between Ball Stylus, which is a simple tool that adds form. So it's like, hey, that's a chunk of clay, right? Mr. Visco would be proud of me. And then you come in and use the rake brush. Mr. Visco would not be proud of me. He'd be upset. It's not true. But look at how simple that nose is. Yeah? And this is where we need to be able to look. Okay, there's a little something right here. It's like a plane. I see some kind of simple plane in here. And then put that into existence. And it's not something that in my experience you do and talk at the same time. It's like bump, 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 bump. And you just work. I'll check in chat here in a moment, but right now, it's triage, baby. Time to work. Time to cycle through the valley of the suck. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to delete my history. So I can always come back to this exact point, and I can be like, well, you kind of screwed up. I'm also going to add that in, a little bit of the nostril. I like to get that connected in there. But that's what we're really dealing with, is this kind of, you got to really start to get these details locked in. Dun, dun, dun. All right. And I'm going to let it get messy. I think it's kind of important to let it get messy. This is a line I learned from Zach Petrock a long time ago. Don't tell him. I was impressed and I kind of stole it, and I never said, oh, I didn't know that. I was like, oh yeah, I know that. And then I was like, I'm fucking stealing that. That's too damn good. Okay. Get it to wrap around that eye, but also cycle in. I'm starting to work on things I know, not things I see. That's always a danger. Okay. And we're done with this. I love this. I'm not going to put that edema in yet. There you go. This is where you got to... There's an act of bravery in this. Make no mistake, you know, I mean, don't be fooling yourself. This is not some small, like, hey, I'm just gonna be an artist, and art, you know, art is an act of bravery, in my opinion, you know. And I live in Orange County, and I deal with a bunch of, like, you know, finance geeks and all this stuff. They like to think, you know, they're brave, which, you know, I call BS. Fucking moving numbers around. I'm creating shit from scratch. Try that, mofo. You just like used a calculator to get your shit done. I had to use like 3 programs, 10 years of study. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Yeah, you make more money than me, but screw off. How's that? All right. Now, when I start filling things in, I'm going to be cautious. All right. Get in and start looking. Keep yourself looking from as many angles as possible, because you can screw this up pretty fast. And that's one of the reasons why I deleted history, is so I can go back and be like, not that big a deal. Okay. Another thing that we got to be mindful of is that our triage, we don't want this to be too long, because a lot of the detail that we are going to really end up enjoying in the models, you know, we're going to get that through photo reference and things like that. But we're going to, you know, we're going to do our best here and see what we can kind of come up with. Bum, 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 bum. Where's that form? Right there. You gotta be careful. Different ages that I'm taking of this guy, you know? And today's really going to be the last day of any sculpting, I think. Because in the 12 Days of Realism, my goal is... check this out. This is actually one of my friends, Simon. We'll say Simon Fox. His last name's, if you say it in German, it's slightly offensive in English. He's over at Blizzard, and he's mentoring some of the game art environment guys right now. And so he did this really quick scene for Emily. And Emily and I were both trying to figure out, like, how did he make it look so awesome? Don't save that. No. Hey, Veronica. Let's look at this. This is because what I'm going to show you right now, what you're going to see right now, this is what I want you. This is where I want to get, and I'm doing this all live in front of you over the course of 12 days. That's the purpose, right? 12 days of realism. Part of it is to just give you the tools that you need in terms of the knowledge to make, a difference. Obviously, there's a lot more involved than just knowledge, but this is my goal, is to help you get to this stage so you can see this and we'll get all of this, or as close as we possibly can. Okay, and let's get ourselves back here. Okay, good. I'm glad we did that, because as we did that, now I can feel something's different, and so I like to interrupt the pattern a little bit, and let's see what's different. I think that, yeah, there we go. And his brow starts to come out. There we go. Okay, but you got to be careful. Got to be careful, because at this phase, we can go south pretty quick. In fact, we are kind of south in a couple of places. And I think it has to do with his brow, because his brow is this, it's very elegant. I don't know if that's the right word, but this is a little bit of a cocaine nose job there. All right, good. It's good. I feel like I'm starting to make small changes, and they're going south. Watch this. I love this. He was better there. So what changed? But when that happens, the key thing that I like to remind people is go back to the beginning. Because this is what we needed to conform to. Although it is still off from there. Nah, that's where we got it all screwed up. Yeah. Okay, good. We'll start over from scratch. And I'll do this multiple times. Because you want to make the one move that makes a difference, and not the one that screws it all up. I'm going to really make that a deep, very full. And I need his nose. There, that'll work. Yeah, it looks like I'll need to add a little more volume right there. small moves. Let's put the corner of that mouth in a little further. There we go. All right. And now I'm going to make small moves. And I'm going to cut this up a little. In fact, I'm going to switch over to the rake brush. There we go. And that's what it is. I'm looking for these little halftones now. I don't need to get all of them, but I would like to get a few. Let's get this. Bum, bum, bum. Get a little volume, a little chunk of fat. Down the form, across the form. Do you guys know what this is? It's actually a pretty cool name. Palperomalar groove. Isn't that cool? Palperomalar groove. Okay, so I'm going to go all the way around in here. All right, and again, if you're just joining me in today, I am in day 6 of the 12 Days of Realism. This is really the last day of sculpting for me. And this is about the triage. This is about the moment in which, you stop talking. You stop using words, and you start turning yourself into this like little form sensing machine. And what's important when you're doing that is you're keeping your tools simple. So I'm using just the rake, my rake brush. It's a slight modification to the rake brush I put inside a ZBrush long time ago. And the ball stylus, which is a variation of clay buildup that I prefer. And we're just adding volume and halftones. And we're trying to get away from too much simplicity. Got to be careful. We don't want too much simplicity in there. You can feel him kind of develop a little bit, right? Like this is actually an expression that he makes. I've lived with this guy's face for a bit. Right here I'd be using the orb crack brush, but I literally, in the class today, I had 3 classes today. I overrode it, so I gotta download the damn thing again. There we go. Okay. All right, now that's an interesting place for us to take a pause for a moment, I think. And just see, did we do anything worthwhile? Hopefully, if we did anything worthwhile, what we would notice is this is the old, this is the new. We would just notice that there's a little bit more complexity. There's a little bit more form and nuances to things. That's what we're really going for. Nothing too major. And I'm looking at it on my, I'm looking at here, I'll show it to you this way. So I'm looking on my iPad. This is an iPad Pro. And I'm looking at this going like, you know, can I see it? And what that's doing is simplifying it in and of itself. So it's making things a little bit more, you know, simple. So kind of like blurring my eyes. Okay. Let me check here real quick on YouTube. Let's refresh this real quick. Just checking out the YouTube. Tap to unmute. Okay, cool. And on YouTube, it's not telling me any comments. Let's scroll all the way down to the bottom. It's a freaking infinite freaking scroll. Jesus, I have that many YouTube videos? Damn. Okay. I think we did good. But what you should be noticing is how much slower I'm going, and also how much slower progress is. And that's good. You don't want to be going too fast. I need to understand that form a little bit. Careful when you do this. Do you see how I've got one form and another form, and notice the measurements are real close? What I'm trying to do is get these two forms, and if you notice, those measurements are real close. Thank you, nature. But notice the way in which the form is arranged. You know, there's a lot more going on there. So this is part of the danger of being too simple. Try to be complex. I'll get that form, and then I'll do that. Then we'll erase that a little bit. And then we'll pull that into it. So one, and I start to interweave them. And if you can weave them, good. I feel like something's missing. There we go. This needs to get a little bit higher. The eye bag is a little low. Okay. Again, if you're just tuning in today, I ain't talking a lot because this is triage. This is a totally different way of thinking and behaving. And it's crazy important to understand that success depends on, you know, on the approach. If you're, a lot of times, in fact, I think people, if you're like me anyways, you miss this, but it's like you expect yourself to be good, but that's kind of, I mean, everybody's got bad days. And sometimes, believe it or not, we've been engineering bad days. You know, because we think we have some assumption that we should perform and it should go this way, and we work against our grain. You guys work against your grain? Does that resonate with you, or do you think I'm just full of crap? Trying to keep my mind loose. One of the reasons why I'm not using a lot of words. Man. This is like I could do this for the rest of my life. You know, as we get into this, it's going to behoove us to have hair, because it's going to be hard to judge success unless we have some semblance of hair in there. So let me show you. Might as well make this in day 6. We might as well add that to the conversation. So I'm going to just append a polysphere. Sorry, I'm going to append a poly mesh. Then I'm going to go to initialize and turn it into a polysphere. There we go. Transparency, divide, scale, symmetry, and then the move brush. Transparency off. Okay, if I remember right, he's got a. We're gonna get him with the hair a bit like, and he's in Jean-Claude Van Johnson. That's a little bit like his olden days. Divide him again. Okay, don't forget to kind of color that a little bit. All right. And I'm going to do a little bit of a trick now. Do I want to use this? Which brush do I want to use? Gosh, I really want to use that orb cracks brush, but I literally just screwed that up. Let's try this one. Doesn't take a ton, but it is wise to turn symmetry off, and it is wise to insert a part. Looks like cornrows. If I remember right, the part is on the side. Pretty much on the side. It's like mine. My part is quite a distance there. Okay, let's go into the rake. Add some texturing with the rake. And pressing Alt. Again, this is my rake. You can grab this off ZBrush Workshops. Okay. And I'm not done yet. I need this. Brush slash brushes. I made these a long time ago. I remember sitting down and working with that feature mid value that Ofer put together, and seeing how I could work it. And I remember playing with this, trying to get this alpha just right. It was a long time ago, but this is pretty powerful. I think Pablo, no, he calls them something else. I was thinking he has something he calls double action brushes, and I forget what he was referring to. But anyways, this is a pretty powerful thing to just come back and forth, and it'll just randomize. Like that. See how that comes up? And it's all it is back and forth. Yeah. That's it. That is a little messy right there. Adding a little extra noise. Okay. And then we'll just pull it all forward. Symmetry on. Flattening that. And then if you have any issues, the rake brush cleans things up nice and quick. But we're not looking for beautiful, perfect hair here. We just want something that's gonna, and yeah, that's some mane growing out of the side of his head. We just need something that's going to help us feel like this is more real. So if it helps us with that, great. If it doesn't, kill it. Sounds a little aggressive, but you get what I mean. All right. Tell me so I'm not delusional. Are you seeing JCVD here? And take a moment and think, like, what's missing? Head over to Facebook, over to facebook.com/Ryan.Kingsline, I think, and tell me, what do you think is missing? Or leave a comment, and I will respond tomorrow, because I gotta get to bed soon, but not right now. I got more sculpting to do, because I could do this for the rest of my life. Mostly what I need to do today is get back. Do you remember in day 5? No, not that. No, not that. The block. Okay. Day 3 kind of sucked. It's like, oh man, where the hell am I going? Day 4, we put all this lines and structures in, right? Day 5, we added all this volume and simplified things. And so now what we're doing is we're going back to little bits of information, adding volume. Bits of information, adding volume. Bits of information, adding volume. And we're going back and forth in a grind on these guys to get a little bit more like informational bits. That's it. And this is my approach, right? I mean, this is what I call the digital sculpting method. This method where we go in with the rake brush and we treat this like an actual clay, right? Just actual clay. I was telling my students today, Ofer used to say that ZBrush is like kind of a Ferrari, right? It wasn't intended to be this kind of simple tool. It's designed to be an experience. That's why they're winning, right? If you look at Mudbox, I mean, Autodesk obviously wanted that market, and they acquired Mudbox. They acquired that during my time at Pixelogic, if I remember correctly. I don't know anything about the details or any of that stuff. It's well above my pay grade. But they didn't quite win, did they? They just didn't. In my view, they didn't win. And there's a very important reason. It has to do with, what their goals were and what their thoughts were on software. And I think it's Ofer's emphasis on the experience, right? Because you got to remember, Mudbox was created as a production tool. And I have to interview those guys. If I can get one of them, if I can get Sky Matter into a podcast, that would be great. Mr. Cardwell. But they created it for production. Ofer created ZBrush to open your brain. And we spent an enormous amount of time on that. I mean, I used to go and travel and visit artists and have conversations. Andrew from Anatomy Tools, basically lived in that guy's home for some period of time every now and then. Just picking the brain and seeing how you get just what does digital need? You got to be careful not to make too major of changes. You got to be real careful. And always keep an eye on it. Let's turn symmetry off and add that little edema that he has right there. Okay. I need to just check my volumes. I'm not confident in this volume. That should not go down and in. There we go. I'll turn symmetry off now, and I think this eye drops down a little bit, and that one covers up. And I'll move that ever so slightly. Alright, I'm feeling him. If I remember correctly. I need a little bit more here. Just a tiny bit. But when you do this, you gotta be so careful, because you can destroy all the hard work. This is not a good view to see the chin. You gotta really be paying attention. I basically destroyed some of the good work. Mentalis. Get that form straight. There we You see, the key thing I want you to see today is how small the moves get. And the kind of things you're worried about. So, for example, da, 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 da. I gotta go and put da, da, da. Otherwise, the music's not right. Okay, this form is really sloping down, whereas mine is coming there. So we need to add some volume in there. There we go. That's like a millimeter of clay. I remember Richard McDonald saying this. Difference between a good sculpture and a bad sculpture, just a millimeter of clay. Or I should say a good sculpture and an okay sculpture. That's probably a better way to say that. I don't think he was kind of... Well, never mind. Careful, Ryan. There we go. Get that bow. You got to get these little distinct characteristics. Yeah. Saving is wise. Okay, let me just refresh this real quick. Luca. How you doing, Luca? All right. Look at that form. Look, see, mine is much more traditional. And this is one of the crazy things about humans. But that's, you know, that's what we're paying attention to right now. Get that form really tucking in. There we go. Okay, let's get that a little lip. Get that nose. Nicolay. How are you, Nicolay? Bien Vicar. Guys, go check out Nicolay. I don't know how to say your last name, Nicolay, but T-S-Y-S. Took some classes. Did some amazing work. I was so impressed with the models, like breathing, and he just took it all the way. All right, so we gotta be careful. I sense I'm screwing something up. Okay, symmetry off, and let's start to get some of this, but most of this, unless you slash, no, not you slash, orb. Yeah, most of this is just indentation. fix all of it up later. I'm not terribly worried about it just now. And I am going to come in and hit some shadows. And I'm going to add a little bit right there, and I'm going to add a little lip right there. There we go. Okay, something's wrong right now. But there's always something wrong. And add a little bit of hair, a little bit of something for shadow. Kind of feel like, yeah, that's what it is. Look at how I went to get the character of those lips from this view, and it kind of made them a bit precious. There we go. I think that fixes it. Yeah, just need to get out there. Too small. Small differences, man. Look at that. From that to that. And probably tomorrow I'll look at it and I'll be like, it needs to go even further out. But a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just move it further out. I'll be like, yeah, no, yeah, let's say no right now. Let's check a couple of things. Huh? It's in parameters. The one thing that we're not seeing, we don't have that much of a, it's like a pretty strong sweep. There we go. I'm just going to straighten that out and drop the corner down ever so much. Drop that corner down. There you go. Something's wrong with those eyes. Too close. If the eyes are too close, I'm going to catch that tomorrow. I'm not going to catch that today. Oh, what is that? Mm-hmm. No. I'm going to just do a bunch of cuts in here. These cuts will help me go in there and try to separate form. There we go. All right. And then I go and I clean up a little bit. Try to leave it behind as well. It's a nice little fancy way to put some form in. There. Now I'm starting to feel it. A little bit of the crunkliness in there. And that's okay. This is what I need. I need that. There we go. You got to start getting the character. Stop worrying about making everything right and perfect. There. So from a distance, you see that reads actually better. Okay, I'm going to do that just a few more times. I'm going to just use the orb brush and I'm going to incise some lines. There we go. Oops, that's too much. Okay, there we go. Now I clean it up. A little much. All right, folks. It's late. Whoop, sorry about that. If we are comparing what we have done to what we have started today with, let's go all the way. Today, day 6 is what, like I said, this is about triage. Triage is about going back to where we were and putting, more half tones into this conversation. So we simplified it in day 5. Day 6, we're going in there and we're complicating it while still maintaining the appropriate volume. It's a beautiful phase, And the thing that you've got to keep in mind about this conversation is that we're artists. You're building form. Okay, there's a million ways to build form. Form, in fact, actually, I'd say it this way. What you're doing is you're building energy. And form is just a conduit to get us to that conversation, to put energy into the piece so that that energy then transmits to somebody else. Kathy Kalowitz, I think, is I just love looking at her work. There's so much energy, there's so much power in the way that she does this and how she kind of operates. And, you look at this and there's form and there's a million different things. Let's say Kathy Kalowitz drawing. I'm looking for one draw. That's the drawing I'm looking for. Look at that. Good God. Everything in the world is in that drawing. Everything good to me is here. You got anatomy, you got structure, you got passion. Look at that. Fuck me, man. Oh my God. Like all the energy of motion and then crystallized little detail in the fingers. Blows me away. All right. All right, guys, here we go. Day 6. Day 7. I look forward to talking to you about that. This is pretty much the last day that we're going to get in and do any of the sculpting, because we got to get in and we got to do pores, and there's a million different things that we got to do to start to get ourselves into a position where, just like this, we are going that next level and creating something powerful and something that sits and has realism in front of us. Welcome to the 12 Days of Realism. Head over to GameArtInstitute.com. That's where you can see more of these. Head over to the blog. You can see all of them here. Day 6 will be here tomorrow once we get that uploaded. And then remember, I am doing if you go over here into courses, I am doing a 4-week mentorship. Now, we got the Game Art Boot Camp that's going January 21st, and we're halfway full on that one. But this is brand new. Digital Sculpting Mentorship. 4 weeks. And I'm kind of excited because I haven't done this in this way. I did this with the boot camp people, but this is going to be all digital sculpting. And we're going to focus on what you need to grow. It's limited to 10 students, which is exciting, and, it's not a ton of money. So I look forward to seeing you guys there. And if you got any questions, leave them down below this video. I'll check this out later and talk to you guys later. Cooper, what's your live stream setup like? Cooper, I use Lumix GH4s. Mics are Tim Ferriss's mic. Yep. A lot of different things. I got some cool lights in here. Okay. Have an awesome night. Night.